Another thing I've noticed recently, and I know you've noticed this at events, is that it seems that like single cards, like raw cards, especially in Pokemon, I've noticed is that they're doing quite well compared to graded cards. So London Card Show is a good example of this. We spoke to a lot of people that were selling. I mean, we were selling there as well, and it seems like a lot of people were saying that raw cards would, in satin binders were selling really well. Graded cards, not so much. Same seems to be the case a little bit on Whatnot, the streaming platform. You do a raw singles stream and they seem to do really well. People can just bid on them. I think the format of like a Whatnot stream works really in favor of like doing singles though, because you can show that card on video when you're buying like on eBay or something. You've just got one image and it's the image that the sellers put up, which can either hide damage or show it, depending on how transparent they're trying to be. But with Whatnot, obviously you've got fairly high quality video. You can show the card at all angles, or it's very transparent for the singles, so potentially that might help why they do so well on there. But I feel like in general, the general consensus is that singles are selling better than graded cards. And yeah, do you think graded cards are a bit oversaturated at the moment? Why do you think that seems to be the case?
It's a good point. Graded cards, I think I definitely said this for a while, and I think a lot of people said the same thing, that we were going to get to a point where PSA subs are, 15 quid a card now.
Yeah.
It's relatively quick turnover rates. I think it's about 2 to 3 months now for bulk, which is the lowest tier they do. And although, aside for the fact that there's, issues going on right now, PSA graded, I think 1.3 million cards in August, which is a lot of cards. So if they're grading single-handedly 1.3 million cards, so say on average over 1 million a month, that's 12 million a year. That's 12 million cards that are going into collections and, going into the hands of people that most likely are going to sell it. A lot of people rely on the same process that, I've done myself really, is, you grade some cards for your single, for your actual own collection, and then you have a cards in there that you can flip, and then that pays for the sub, right? And I think that does work generally for a lot of people, but right now we're in a position of saturated. Grading's never been more accessible than it is right now. There's so many different middlemen. It's literally easy. Like, no one should have any issues with grading cards now. And that's why a lot of people are trying to pick up raws to grade. My DMs are filled with people trying to buy raw cards off me. Like,
Yeah.
the other day I posted that photo of, I found another box of singles. Maybe 40, 50 DMs of people going, anything worthy grading, or, what have we got in there? Because I'm looking at, I need some cards for my next sub. And I always generally sold a lot of raws over the years to people that were grading, mostly to friends. I knew they were going to get a 9 or a 10. Most of the time they got 10s. Sometimes they'd keep the cards to their collection, sometimes they send them on. But for me, it was just about, getting rid of some singles that, I couldn't be asked to hold, and I didn't want to grade myself. And I still do that. I think I don't just keep all my raws back and only grade them myself, because it's just not feasible. I have too many for that. I think, the fact that people can now grade them themselves so easily means that people are picking up raws to flip. They're looking at raws so they're more likely going to buy a card at raw than they're going to be graded, right?
Yeah.
Because they think, well, if I buy this and get a 10 and spend 25, 30 quid on it, why would I want to spend £200 on it graded? Because no one's desperate anymore for graded cards. Like, no one's going, oh, I need this right now. I remember during the hype of 2020, Japanese Neo PSA 9s were going for like upwards of like 75, 80 quid. Now they're like 20 quid each.
Yeah.
Primes were they had their hype. They had a hype even before that, where the English primes are really hard to find, and now they're saturated. So the graded market is absolutely saturated, unless it's like really low pop stuff that's hard to find. If it's just stuff that most people are grading, it's going to be hard to get your money back if you're trying to sell them. at these like premium prices, right? So now it's a case of like I see a lot of cards sell for raw prices, and there's no grading fees. Like they can't put a premium on it to be graded. It is literally just it's selling for raw.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah, I think it's going to be continuing like that probably
do you think
for a while now.
it just seems weird that people are buying them to grade when they're not going to do that well when they're graded, if you know what I mean? Maybe there's just a delay in people realizing that, and then once they do realize, that's potentially when it has a shift and the dynamic changes again. But yeah, do you think most people are picking the raws up to grade, or do you think people are keeping them raw for a binder?
I guess it's difficult because a lot of the people I speak to are picking up raws to grade, and I mean they're asking me and they're telling me they're going to grade them, and
Okay, yeah,
they
yeah,
know that I'm okay with that. It's not gonna
yeah,
like I know
yeah,
what their intentions are. It doesn't matter what. Once they bought the card from me, I don't care what they do with it.
yeah,
Um, people I think going back and trying to buy cards for their binders. They're trying to complete sets. I think there are a lot of people who are still buying raws to keep raw, but it was always going to happen, right? With grading getting
yeah,
so popular, and it was going to get to a point where it was going to get saturated. And PSA are just churning out cards right now. Obviously, BGS, I think they're up 25%, and I think CGC is up 17% in terms of like grading on versus last month. So every grading company in August graded more than they did in July and June. So it's going to be it's saturated. Honestly, I think it'll be something will have to happen for it to change.
yeah,
But I think this is it now. Graded cards are common,
yeah,
unless of course they're these low pops. These collections are still being found, right, with raws, with these singles, and it's going to happen for a while. There is a delay, as you said. I think there's some people that can do better. Like if their whole business is on selling graded cards, some of them do really well because they'll get a raw in, they'll grade it, and they already know the buyer before they've
yeah,
even graded
yeah,
it, and they might go, "Oh, by the way, I've just got this card in. It's come. It's at PSA right now. It's going to be looking to come back at 10. I'll let you know." And they'll be like, "Yep, sure." And I've done that with a couple of cards myself already. I've got potential buyers for already like a few cards in my PSA sub that's there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what do you see it changing over the next 12 months.
yeah. I think so. I feel like it is already slowly changing. I feel like there's some people that are picking up cards for binders. And I think as more time goes on, so if you're talking 12 months, as more time goes on, more people will realize these kind of issues and potentially that there's not much profit there to be had. And then when people realize that, they move on to doing something else that will generate more profit than what they are doing. So yeah, I think 12 months is probably a good time frame to really have a change in that dynamic. But yeah, I guess we'll see where it goes. We'll see on episode 75 what's happened.